So it's safe to say that past pandemics are not just more graphically horrifying but more life-threatening as well. But I'm not sure if it's just me. Why is there an intuitive feeling that COVID-19 is such a depressing period, like it's the end of the world? As of October 2020, there are around 36.7 million cases of COVID-19, with a total of 1.06 million fatalities spread all over the world. We're talking about 200 plus countries. And I know this is not a competition and this is in no way downplaying the impact of the 2019 novel coronavirus, but we've had worse pandemics. But why do we feel that this is the worst thing that could ever happen? Let the idea sink in that for the last 6 months or so, we have completely changed our lifestyle and even the entire world system. Although our experiences differ in degrees, there's no denying that the whole world has been impacted by COVID-19. It was unthinkable for me. I thought only a world war could do such a thing, drastically changing our lives for the worse. And this ordeal will take longer. Experts say it'll take 1 to 2 years for us to have a global supply of a vaccine. Okay, fine, we've had deadlier and longer pandemics in history. But these happened with previous generations, decades and centuries ago. So my lack of experience from actual global disease outbreaks made me conclude that COVID-19 is the worst feeling ever. If we're basing it on death rate and severity of symptoms and effects to health, other pandemics are actually more frightening. The Black Death bubonic plague in the mid-1300s ravaged Europe, Africa, and Asia, with an estimated death toll between 75 and 200 million people. Its symptoms would entail someone developing plague-like boils in different parts of the body. They're likely swelling that could be as big as an egg. It's highly infectious and the virus is so efficient, a perfectly healthy person who got the virus at night and is about to go to bed could be dead by morning. What about the Spanish flu between 1918 and 1919, which killed more people than World War I? It doesn't discriminate. It infected young ones and even healthy adults. It is estimated that about 500 million or 1/3 of the world's population became infected with the virus. The number of deaths was estimated to be at least 50 million worldwide. When infected, you'll get dark spots on your cheeks and you'd turn blue. You'd suffocate from a lack of oxygen as your lungs are filled with frothy, bloody substance. So it's safe to say that past pandemics are not just more graphically horrifying but more life-threatening as well. But I'm not sure if it's just me. Why is there an intuitive feeling that COVID-19 is such a depressing period, like it's the end of the world? Sure, history books confirm the severity of past pandemics, but these facts cannot invalidate what we currently feel, right? How come that even if humankind experiences similar protocols, the same disruption, the same quarantine, deaths, and anxiety in all past pandemics, there's just something disturbing with 2020. Probably there's this one element present in the current COVID-19 crisis that is not seen in the previously mentioned past pandemics. It's not political issues. The US was battling the Spanish flu during their midterm election season and at the end of World War I. Actually, because of a scheduled political parade in Philadelphia that organizers refused to cancel despite the warning for a virus threat, they still went on ahead. Thousands attended and 6 weeks later, Philadelphia became one of the hardest hit US cities with 16,000 fatalities. So imagine the politicization never stopped even at the time of pandemic. And it's not economic problems. The Black Death plague, it spread in Europe because of trade and commerce. Most of the outbreaks were due to many cases of ships carrying infected sailors and rats going into different regions. Actually, that's where the word quarantine originated. Quarantino or 40 days is the required duration for ships to stay ashore before they can go inland if no one turns out sick. So overall, global trade was severely disrupted as well. But going back, if it's not politics or globalization, so this one exclusive thing that made this current pandemic feel like our darkest days ever is none other than social media and the internet. What, are you disappointed? How did the internet make the virus worse? Well, I didn't say that it has something to do with how the virus is mutating or being transmitted. But the COVID-19 global health crisis created such a dark world because social media and the internet made everything so visible, exposing the worst things that could happen at a time of pandemic. And identified 3 levels of this: the content that we can see, the interaction that happens, and the shift that we experienced. And even if it has a lower death rate, the stories that reverberate in the digital space can be so depressing, it's like we're alive but we're barely breathing. Of course, there are the obvious ones seen in the internet, like death tolls. You have to understand that real-time updates are never really a thing in past pandemics. News updates shared online about travel restrictions, industries that will be badly affected, and the economic recession are very much accessible 24/7. And then social media suddenly became an outlet of people to express their sentiments and fears. Turning your profile pictures into black to mourn for someone's death, sharing anecdotes of frontliners struggling or the healthcare system inefficiencies, students having a hard time adjusting to online classes, businesses going bankrupt and shutting down, and the marginalized bearing the brunt of the lockdown. But of course, there are good news being published, stories about survival and the Good Samaritan. They also become viral, fine. But there is a study which concludes that people tend to be more aroused by and become more attentive to negative news than good ones. So this is why the things that usually go viral, the things you always see online, are negative news. And there's this another layer of negativity we see online. More than the upfront bad content is we also see the toxic exchanges of information and engagement of people. What people do with these things happening in the internet. Imagine, we're already in a pandemic and we still see troll farms or fake news peddlers manufacturing stories that go against science and put malice on the good things that some people do. For what? Just for clout. Imagine the added anxiety when COVID-19 tally is having some irregularities, the back and forth and the lack of coordination in government policies, and the insensitive and crass remarks of leaders and policymakers of what we should be doing, how we should be feeling. It's as if they know what it's like to be one of us. All of these scenarios never happened in past pandemics because people back then didn't have real-time access to how these stories unfolded or developed. They're all just locked up inside. We thank the internet for spreading the information fast, but over the course of that is misinformation and confusion riding along, and the latter two are the ones people latch onto. And didn't you notice how criminals morphed into digital scammers? There's non-stop phishing attempt. Since everybody's doing digital financial transaction, you get a lot of tech scams from people. What about those pranksters exploiting delivery services? Placing orders but not really having any plans to pay up and just sending the drivers in different random places. For what? Just for laughs. And it is because of the existence of the internet and social media that class differences are magnified. The internet now is a class issue. Your job, business, education, news and information consumption, basic services, and leisure time, they all rely on it. And not everybody can access and afford it. And with the existence of the internet, the one thing that is supposed to make things convenient, it unfortunately raises privileged people's expectations that we all can live through this new normal the same way they do. They assume that you can perfectly go to your online classes, continue working remotely, or take on side jobs on the internet, or set up an online business. But when a privileged leader says that everyone can do this, they forget about those people whose circumstances prevent them from keeping up. So we push them down even further. And we can't discuss class issues without delving into politics and economics. So yes, the Black Death bubonic plague sabotaged the world economy centuries ago, and the 2 years of battling the Spanish flu is marred with political issues. Well, these are also present in COVID-19 pandemic, but this time, the internet made every single detail so crystal clear. Haven't you read the depressing posts of people who are forced to close down their family businesses? Haven't you scratched your head in confusion and frustration with the debates and mudslinging of opposing politicians when all that we need to do is to unite against COVID-19? Now, this last one is somehow complex because it talks about the transition that happened between pre-COVID-19 and the dark world that we know today. Let me walk you through. Before COVID-19, we can freely balance our social life indoors and outdoors, grinding during the weekdays and partying or going out with friends on weekends. And we have photos and Instagram, Facebook stories to document those activities. So our social and digital lives complement one another. It's like a default already of how we go about in our daily lives. But even if it's like that, we can still regulate our screen time from using our gadgets by physically separating ourselves from work or study stations. We even go for social media detox and go out and travel to forget the busy life and sometimes toxic digital space. We know what it feels like to balance offline and online life. That yes, we are connected 24/7 through chat, video calls, and social media, but actual physical social interaction can never be replaced. And then COVID-19 happened. The lockdown, quarantine, and travel restrictions removed the social aspect of our lives and consequently shoved a full digital life in our mouths. We're facing the screen time all the time, not because we want to, but because we have to. That's the only option we have to go about in our daily lives. Even if it has become too toxic, we can just go out and get fresh air. Deactivating our accounts is also an option, but then you miss out on the only thing close to social interaction with friends. But then again, it's difficult to completely avoid the negative part of social media and the internet, the ones I mentioned previously. And that's what made COVID-19 feel so much worse. It's that radical shift to a full digital life with no social life to balance it out. And the alternative we have now, which is social life in social media, is plagued with so much toxicity. We scroll down on our newsfeed consuming the unavoidable negativity. This makes us miss the old life so much. Compare that to the people who survived the Spanish flu and the bubonic plague and the other pandemics. They didn't have this radical switch in lifestyle. Somehow, their version of lockdown and quarantine is closely similar to their old lives, and their eyes weren't forced open to the atrocities of surviving the pandemic while they're indoors. This is why 2020 is such a depressing time. It's all because of social media and the internet. It has taken going viral in a totally different context. It's no longer just the COVID virus, but the online negativity spreading all over the world, and no physical distancing could prevent it. Yes, COVID-19 virus led to thousands of deaths, but the pandemic plus social media and the internet has resulted in millions of dead men walking, scrolling through social media mindlessly without realizing we are consuming poison. If ever you have been having a hard time sleeping in the past months, or have had outbursts of anger and frustration, or episodes of unexplained sadness, that's the anxiety brought about by the pandemic taking a toll on your mental health. Psychology explains that being able to identify the feeling, labeling the emotion, and understanding the cause could help us mentally process this discombobulating state. What's fuel to anxiety is not knowing, not understanding. So if anything, with this video of mine, I hope I have helped you see the real and overarching reason why 2020 feels so wrong. I can't offer a solution because there's no way out of this. I can't say that we just have to suck it up and deal with it because that's a very privileged thing to say. But what I have hoped to achieve is ease down your anxiety and put an end to your endless questions of why do we feel like this. It's been right in our face all along. These are the type of content I put out on my YouTube channel. It's a combination of social issues and mental processes and a little creativity in between. If you like this kind of content, please click subscribe, and you may also check the other links posted on the comment section or in the description box. They are relevant on this video. You could also check out the other videos on my channel. Please click subscribe, please click the notification bell, and thank you.